Many beginning digital artists will stumble across this list of words they don't understand in their program. A lot of these options seem confusing and intimidating, so most will just ignore them. This is actually a big mistake, because these options, usually called blending modes, are extremely useful and make your artwork so much better and the process so much easier. First, if you aren't sure where to find these options in your program, you'll want to check and make sure your program has them. If it doesn't, most if not all of the programs I mentioned in this video should have them, so consider switching to one of these. Now, when you make a new layer, it's automatically set to the normal blending mode. Changing the blending mode changes how everything on that layer interacts with the layers below it. If you don't understand quite yet, these examples should help. We'll start with this drawing. It could use some lighting and shading, and the colors don't match very well. Lucky for us, blending modes make this easy. Our first notable blending mode is overlay. If your colors don't look like they belong with each other, just make a new layer, set it to overlay, and make this layer into a clipping mask, which, if you don't know, makes everything drawn on this layer only appear on top of the things drawn below it. So once we've done that, filling this overlay layer with a unifying color will make all of your original colors underneath look more cohesive. You can adjust the opacity of the overlay layer to make this effect as subtle or extreme as you'd like. Many artists such as myself also use overlay to add textures, which I plan to cover in a future video. And lastly, overlay is handy for adding darker or lighter details over the top of your drawing. Using white or black will lighten or darken the colors below. You could also potentially use this for lighting and shading, but I prefer to use the blending modes, which I'll explain next. Multiply is probably the one that I use most frequently. This one is great for shading. Just like with overlay, make a new multiply layer above the original color one and set it as a clipping mask. Then, whatever color we put on this layer will darken the colors below it. Covering the whole drawing in shadow and then erasing where you want light to hit is a good way to do it, but you can also either leave the shadow as it is or erase and then use our next blending mode, which is hard light. As usual, make a new clipping mask layer and open up the blending modes. There are actually quite a few different light blending modes, so you can play around with them and choose what you like best, but hard light is the one I prefer in most cases. Just pick the color you want for your lighting and slap it down. You can stop at this point, but I like to keep adding blending mode layers, especially multiply ones, and possibly grabbing a brush with pressure opacity and painting over everything. Short recap, overlay is good for overlaying a unifying color, adding texture, and dark and light details. Multiply is for shadows, and hard light is for lighting. There are also many more blending modes, but these three are the ones you'll probably need most. If you're having trouble making clipping masks or anything else, I can try to help you in the comments. You may also be able to find a YouTube video explaining clipping masks for your specific program.